Welcome to the DTC Insider Podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisenthal.
Real quick before we continue with the episode, let me tell you something. If you own or work for a DTC brand and you're not hitting your revenue and profitability goals, you're not alone. Things are getting harder, and what used to work doesn't anymore. That's why it's important to find a business-oriented partner that's focused on improving the levers that will change the game for your business. And believe me, it is possible. At BSR Digital, to give you an example, we have recently helped our clients generate between, listen well, 80 and 700K in extra monthly revenue. If you'd like to explore how we could do the same for you and your business, head on over to bsrdigital.com and book a call with us. Hey, welcome to another episode. As always, I'm Brian Roisenthal, your host, and today I'm going to interview Andrew Sendejo, a retired 12-year NFL player that he's disrupting the brain health space and changing the narrative on supplementary nutrition through his company, BrainTree Nutrition. Hey, Andrew, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Actually, it's the first time in over 150 episodes or so that we have a former NFL player. So it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm curious, as probably everyone in the audience, how did you end up founding BrainTree?
So BrainTree was founded towards the end of my NFL career. While I was playing, there weren't any products or companies out there that were making products that were safe and banned substance free and transparent and had efficacious ingredients that were proven to help with repetitive TBIs, concussions, focus, memory. And it was something that was just needed not only for us, but for our teammates after years of prolonged head trauma, repetitive TBIs, concussions, started to see even on myself kind of some late onset ADHD and some focus and memory symptoms that I normally didn't ever have. And so started to go down this path of, sourcing, researching the ingredients that had human clinical studies on them to help in these areas. And so the NFL is also just extremely strict with ADHD medication and prescribing that. And so, I actually went to one of our team doctors because I was starting to have these symptoms, and they said, look, if you're a guy off the street, like we would definitely prescribe you like an Adderall or something like that, but you don't have a long enough history of having these symptoms. So the NFL is not going to approve you to take this ingredient because it's a banned substance. And so that was another kind of problem, is giving guys kind of like a natural product that we knew that they could take and they wouldn't test positive on a drug test. And so we launched our flagship product, our nootropic and neuroprotection product, to really just help alleviate these areas. Studying in the meeting, studying your playbook, staying laser focused during the game, and then also having the kind of anti-inflammatory effects with all the, obviously contact to the head. And really just wanted to formulate a line of products that all worked synergistically together to enhance and preserve cognitive function and brain health.
Amazing. I love the story. So basically, you didn't find a solution that worked for you back then and with the NFL rules. So you just created something that worked, right?
Yeah, it was just it was a need that was there for not, not even just athletes. That's obviously we were athletes, and so that's where we started. But as we kind of started to do more of our R&D and kind of just looking like even just in the general consumer markets, a lot of the products out there were using proprietary blends or using fillers, and then still trying to charge you, a crazy price because it was like a brain supplement. And so, our mantra was kind of to make brain health products affordable and available to people, and really make it easy for people to kind of lay out this kind of foundation of areas that can help improve your brain health. And so that's how we kind of landed on these different SKUs that we have, as far as our focus memory product, our gut brain connection product with our probiotic, our adaptogen stress and anxiety relief product, our sleep aid product, and then our hydration, electrolyte, and focus product. And just kind of checking off these areas that can enhance your brain health. And wanted to make it to where people don't have to go look up all, research all this. Like, we just went ahead and did it for you, and just kind of checked off these little boxes of like, hey, if you're looking to improve your brain health, here are some products that can supplement your diet. We always advise you should try to do everything naturally first, and if those things aren't working, that's where supplements come in. Supplements are there to supplement your diet. They should not be your entire diet. So, even for us, when people come to us with issues like, I'm having problems with sleep, or stress and anxiety, or these different areas, we'll always try to solve that with a natural way. Are you sleeping well? Are you getting sunlight in the morning? Are you exercising? Are you hydrating enough? What's your diet like? All these kind of areas that you should kind of have handled first. And if you're doing those things correctly and you're still having issues, that's where supplements come in. And so that's where we try to help people out. If there's something that they're not getting, there are some of these ingredients that you can't necessarily get from a food source, but and that's where a supplement comes in, something that has human clinical studies proven to be efficacious and actually help you with these kind of ailments that you have.
Amazing. Let's talk about mindset for a minute. I personally love that conversation because I think that being an entrepreneur has you need to have many things like in you, or need to learn many things as well. And it's not only about the hard skills or technical skills or business, but it's about the soft skills, the mindset, the discipline, and many others, right? And we have had some mindset and business coaches here in the show and discussed that at length. But I'm very interested in this case about your thoughts, because again, being an elite athlete is not something. I don't get to speak with many elite athletes every single day. We speak with entrepreneurs, founders, CMOs, but not with NFL players, right? So this is a great chance for me and for the audience to learn about your mindset and what you think that you took from being an elite athlete to now you're to being a business owner, let's say.
There's a ton of areas that translate over to business, and in a startup entrepreneur world. Gosh, I go on forever, but I think just the discipline, being extremely regimented, being extremely motivated, having goals that you're used to setting goals, high goals, very lofty goals, and going out to achieve them. Also, going into an industry like the NFL, which is like the 1% of the 1%, the top tier elite, you're used to extreme competition and very cutthroat industry. Is, if you don't do your job, like, you're getting released and they're finding someone else to do your job. And so being in that world for so long and being under that kind of stress and that pressure to perform and to execute at a high level has made the transition into business much easier, because the mindset has always been there. There's no pro athlete that's not a hard worker. So that's kind of already there. I would say also just getting used to the hours that I had in the NFL, as far as, you work every day for 6 months straight during the season. And so you kind of put everything on the back burner, and that's kind of your whole focus. I always kind of made the analogy of, like, when we start the season, it was like going into the maze, and like the whole season, you're just in this maze, and you just got to keep working until you find your way out on the other side. And in football, it was like you'd wake up at 5 a.m., you'd have to go lift weights, you'd have to go to meetings, then you'd go to like a little walkthrough, then you go to lunch, then more meetings, then you go to practice, then you go to more meetings, then you go home and watch film. So it's like, the amount of mental agility and cognitive demand is actually higher than the physical demand during the week that you get. Obviously, game day, you get a full toll of that. But during the week, you're sitting in more meetings and studying more than you are doing physical practice and labor on the field. And so I think just being used to that grind of, hey, like, I got to get through this amount of film, I got to get through, these are kind of my action items for the day, for the week. I would say another area is just being prepared. You have to be prepared going into every meeting, every practice, obviously every game, because if you don't, you get embarrassed in front of millions of people. And I think that also, has translated very well into the business world, as far as just being prepared and, knowing your competition, knowing everything that you're supposed to do for your job and your responsibility, being accountable to to the team. And I think just, you know, the being in the NFL, you're being evaluated every single day, even at practice. All the GMs, all the coaches, everyone's always watching you. And if you start to slip up just a little bit, they're thinking, is there someone that could do better than this guy? Like, should we start to look for a replacement? And so I've always been used to the pressure of performing and just executing at a high level, and just kind of the mental fortitude it takes to endure long, hard hours grinding it out for this, ultimate goal that you're trying to reach. And, I feel like it's the same way in business. There's kind of the ups and downs, just like during the football season. It's a grind. There's going to be times where, some self-doubt can creep in. There's going to be times where you're doing really well. And it's really just kind of staying consistent, blocking out the noise, staying in the maze, keep navigating your way. And so I honestly think that, going into business afterwards has been a great, field for me to transition into this, just because of the mentality that I've already had to have through that part of my life. If I didn't have that, I probably would have already have crumbled by now.
Questions for you based on what you said. Very interesting, by the way. One, it comes from a book that I read that many guests recommended here on the show, which it's called Atomic Habits. It helps with habit creation, and the author says that he interviewed many elite athletes such as yourself, and according to the author, they said that the greatest threat to success is not failure, it's boredom. So people get bored, and that's why they fail, they abandon. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's tough to put in all the
Yeah.
reps every day without being bored.
Yeah. And that's what makes the grind is because it's kind of this consistent, methodical, repetitive schedule that you have. And it's like, are we really doing the same thing at the same day, at the same time every week for the whole season? Like, and that can really get on you. But that's where you have to like change your mindset as to, it's not, you have to do all those little things to ingrain them in your head in order to be successful on the field and in business, because it's just second nature to you at that point. And so you just kind of, rewire how you look at different areas of like, okay, this thing that's like super boring and methodical, like the really great players and great companies, they do all those little, small, methodical, boring details, and they treat them like they're high priority items. And so they're able to kind of, not only do they treat the priority items with, a much stricter eye, they also like all the little items too.
And the other thing is, you said that you had, of course, the coach and the whole team, taking a look at everything you did, and of course you couldn't, fail. You need to show up and still do the thing, otherwise you would get replaced. Now, in this, let's say, new phase of your life, who holds you accountable?
Yeah, I would say, kind of the team, business partners, and really myself. A lot of it, I think that's where it starts first, is being able to hold yourself accountable. And I think that's why I kind of always have my list of things, that I want to accomplish for the day and for the week, and make my schedule built out extremely, like, I mean, even to the point of like scheduling like my meals at the exact time. Like, you need to start, working on your scripts or content on this exact time, versus like, I think maybe a lot of times people are just kind of like, okay, like I have that blocked off, like I'll just kind of do it within that hour sometime. And I guess in the football world, you're used to doing things like literally hard stop times. I'm talking like in the middle of a sentence, like if coach is talking about something and the meeting ends at 12, as soon as it hit 12, he will literally not even finish the sentence and we'll go to the next meeting. And so just used to being on a very strict schedule like that. I'm used to it. I enjoy it. It keeps me regimented. It keeps me on schedule. And I just know that like I have this other action item that I have to finish by tomorrow. So however I have to get to that and finish it, I need to do it so that it's ready there so I can stay on schedule and stay on pace, and keep things moving in the right direction.
Great. Let's talk about BrainTree for a sec now. How does How does how is BrainTree different from other brain health supplements out there? Probably that's the
Yeah.
question.
So we use ingredients that have human clinical studies on these exact ingredients that we use. We use a lot of trademarked, branded ingredients that have their own human clinical studies. So we like to base everything on the science, base everything on the studies, versus basing things kind of on what's trendy or what or like kind of what's the more popular ingredient right now. I would say so. That's one of the big differentiators for us. And I think also using transparent labels. So on our bottles, you can see exactly what ingredient you're getting at what dosage. And a lot of these companies, they'll use a proprietary blend and they'll kind of use a lot of fillers. And it's just kind of listed in there in the ingredients, but you don't really know how much of that ingredient you're getting. So they'll, use some flashy ingredient that's really expensive, but they'll only use a little sprinkle of it. And then they'll put a bunch of other ingredients around it and they'll try to market it as like, oh, we use this ingredient. Well, I don't even know how much you're putting in there because it's in this proprietary blend. So I'd say that's one of the huge areas that we pride ourselves on, is just being transparent and showing you exactly what you're getting. We don't have anything to hide as far as the dosages and things like that. And so that I would say that's a main deal. I think basing it on the science, we don't put any ingredients in there that don't have multiple studies to support that they'll actually help you. And I think there's some companies that will do that with certain ingredients. They know that in the consumer markets that people are aware of that ingredient and they think it does something. And so they'll still put it in their product because they know people will buy it. But there's not any science to even support it. So they're really counting on the placebo effect to kick in. And so that's kind of not how we operate. Like I said, we didn't really even, I mean, we did, but initially this started because we needed it for ourselves. Like we needed it for our brains and for our teammates' brains. So that's how you know that the ingredients are quality and that they're efficacious, because we wouldn't have put it in there if it didn't work. I would say another huge difference is that our manufacturing practices are of the highest quality. So we're manufactured in a GMP, FDA, NSF registered facility. So that ensures just the quality, the potency, the accuracy, the third-party testing of the ingredients. We're there throughout the entire process, from the sourcing to the actual making the product, to labeling, to distribution. And so we're there for every step of the process, to where we're kind of on the ground. We get to see the whole process happen. We know every single part of the process in and out. And that way, we just get to have oversight on every single stage. And that just ensures that the product is going to get to the end consumer without being bounced around by 5 different people coming from out of the country, different things like that. And so that just ensures the quality of the product. And then I would say the other, what our kind of mantra, like I said earlier, is to make brain health products that are efficacious, that are affordable and available to people, and not trying to just see what's the best margin we can get and make the most money we can get, because that was not the original plan behind this. Like I said, the original plan was to help our own brains from all the years of getting hit in the head. And I think there's a lot of companies, if they had the quality of ingredients and the products that we had, I think they would charge maybe 2x of what we charge for our products. And so that's kind of where I think we kind of have this unique position there of like, not only are we giving you the best ingredients and the best products, but we're also giving them to you at an affordable price that you don't really have to kind of second guess all the time. We wanted it to be something that, from where we grew up and how we grew up, from a humble, upbringing, to like something that my parents could afford to buy when I was growing up as a kid, and not just only going after the one percenters and trying to like price people out. So that's kind of what we wanted to be available for everybody to take.
It's great. One small question I wanted to ask you about niching, growing out of your niche or your original niche. I don't know in this case if the NFL was actually the original niche. I know the idea came from, being an NFL player, but was it the original niche? Like targeting NFL players or at least football players, or did
Yeah.
you always plan to
Yeah, I think that was, that was originally kind of the idea is like, hey, this is something that we need. There's a need for this in professional sports and contact sports, not only from the any collision sport, but even just any sport in general that requires a high amount of cognitive demand. And then just, as the business started to kind of, evolve and things like that, it's like, well, if this is good enough for these guys that are getting hit in the head all the time, it's definitely good enough for everyone else out there in the world. So, that's when we kind of went more of a broad approach for, to get it to the people, to the end consumers out there that need this type of product day to day, to get people off of the Adderalls and off of the prescription medications and drugs that have all these crazy side effects. We were like, let's give people products that are as close as you can get to a pharmaceutical prescription drug. I mean, they're pharmaceutical grade products, and at least give people an option. Like, hey, if you're ready to make the switch off of your prescription drugs, like we have products here that you can switch to, and give you an alternative choice versus people kind of being stuck and they're like, well, this Adderall is like the only thing I can take to help me focus. And it's like, well, that's actually not true. We have ingredients here that I can show you the studies that show that help with ADHD symptoms and help with focus and age-related mental impairment and things like that. So just trying to give people the option to live a healthier, better life, have more longevity, feel better. Brain health is mental health. When you can't focus, you forget where you set your keys, you forget appointments, you're missing phone calls, you're messing up big presentations or meetings because you're not remembering important information. When you're stressed, your cortisol levels are high, you're not sleeping well, you're not hydrating, all these things. That is what creates a lot of mental health issues, because it starts to wear on you. You're not sleeping right. So then now that you're not sleeping right, now your diet is all messed up. Now your hormones are all out of whack. Then you're not focusing. So then people start drinking more caffeine, but then they can't sleep because they drank too much caffeine. And it starts to create this really volatile kind of system. And it's just hard to get out of that sometimes. And that's where a lot of people are at. They're kind of stuck in this kind of tornado, if you will, of like relying on this to help them sleep, but then they need this to help them wake up, but then they need this to help them calm down. And they're just all using those together versus kind of getting off of that and then kind of like resetting and getting kind of this more natural, still science-based approach to having better brain health and a better life.
Yeah, I was asking because typically people talk about niching down and the steps to do that and tips to do that. But with this guest in a previous episode, recently we discussed how to grow beyond your original niche, and he was saying something similar to what you said. You find commonalities. In this case, what happens to these elite players happen to other people too. So that's where you can help them with your products. The challenge, though, for brands is to get the storytelling right, so they
Yeah.
can link your brand or associate your brand with this new need, because all of a sudden you're talking to NFL players or elite players or football players, and now you're talking to everyone else. So he was, suggesting or ways to control the narrative and ways to, tease the audience before, making the leap and
Yeah.
start becoming and start targeting somebody else. But yeah, that's what I was asking. So, which channels are you present on? Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it like retail? You're in marketplaces such as Amazon and DTC. Is that it?
Yeah. So our channels consist of our DTC, we have a little bit of, we have two of the products that are on Amazon. We're slowly phasing out of Amazon for various reasons. Our retail and our B2B channels, and multiple different B2B channels. So always finding new unique retailers, distributors, etc. And just I think I just retired 2 years ago, so even just as a new kind of entrepreneur, like still learning things all on the way of like unique ways to continue to grow the business. And like I said, we want to make this available to people however we got to do it. And so that's just been a daily grind working on that.
Yeah, and on the last episode, I interviewed a founder who was telling his story about landing Nordstrom, but a few stores. But you actually, correct me if I'm wrong, you're about to be in 100 retail stores. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
We
so
started
that's
here. Yeah. We started here locally in Austin, just right in our backyard, and just have slowly started to grow that using, just as the brand continues to grow, getting picked up by more national chains, and even just some of the chains here have expanded into other states as well. So we're already kind of in their system with that, and hoping to get locked in with a couple of these nationwide kind of distributors there. And so we have a very good, proof of concept here in our own backyard of being a company that's already been able to get into all this retail, and been able to do well and move products in retail. So it's really just staying on it, sticking with it, staying consistent, and continuing to kind of just like, pound the rock, so to speak.
those listening or watching these that are looking to, getting into retail. What could you tell them about the ups and downs or challenges and also the good things? Why not?
You get used to them saying no, and they're gonna say no right away. Everyone's always, unless you're, more established and they already know about the brand, you're gonna have a little bit easier time in there, right? But a lot of these retailers, they have, thousands of brands approach them all the time, and so I think one of the areas is just don't be afraid to annoy people. Like they're gonna say no, right? They get told they get all these brands all the time, and I guess annoying them, at a with a certain to a certain extent, right? You don't want to piss them off, but don't be, just because they say no, like, it's okay to like go back and talk to them again and say, hey, like, are you still thinking about this? Blah, blah. I think going in the retail route is you get told more no to your face because you know, in the D2C side, you get told no through an abandoned cart. And so you don't really directly get that to your face versus in retail, you're getting a face-to-face rejection. And so get used to being rejected, and that's okay. There's tons of brands that have scaled to, huge companies. And I'm sure early in their career, they were also getting told no. And so it's just staying on top of it, being consistent, nudging these people a lot, um, and even to the point where, we've had people that they said, oh, like we're not interested right now. And, we were so confident in the branding and the ingredients and kind of the marketing behind it and the story behind it. We said, hey, we'll give you some product for free. We'll literally put it on your shelf for free. And I guarantee you they're going to move. And then after they sold all of them, then they called us back and said, hey, like you were right. Like we sold out of this product. Like we would like to like bring you on as a vendor, as a supplier for us. And so sometimes that's where you have to go as well. It's just putting it on the shelf for free, giving them the 100% margin on that, and just kind of eating that. And that's just, I mean, especially in a consumer brand like that, like it's just part of it. You're gonna have to get used to just giving away free product.
Yeah.
And so I would say just being used to getting rejected was
Yeah.
probably one of the
I
biggest
mean,
parts.
that's life, business, getting more no's than yes. But I really liked and I wrote it down, the analogy with the abandoned carts. As I have an agency, we work with the commerce brands, but I have never helped. I never stopped to think about it. So I love I love analogies. So I wrote this
Yeah,
one. Uh,
yeah.
and by the way, these guests we had in the last episode, he said that he sent something like 17 emails to the buyer in Nordstrom, and when he didn't get any replies, he took a photo of the shelf and he photoshopped his product on the shelf and send something funny to the buyer. And only then in the 18th email, the 18th, not the second, third, he got a reply about, okay, let's talk, So sometimes it will take less, sometimes more. And who's the in that case, who's your champion when it comes to retail? Who's that person you need to convince to be there and to get in your pocket?
Are you saying as far as like who are we looking to go after, or like who's kind of, or are you saying just in general who do we approach at these
What
locations?
what role at that company, let's say Target or whichever retail store, or who do you within that company, who do you need to convince to be there, to be listed there? Is it the buyer or who else?
Yeah, it kind of varies, but usually it's just like the purchasing manager, the buyer. Obviously for us, we're always, if we have a way to get to someone a little higher and have it drop down, that also, if you have that connection or you end up meeting that person or whatever, having that email chain come from a superior down to the purchasing manager, they'll open their eyes a little bit faster or respond to that much faster. But there's also times where you have to work it from the ground up, create the demand for the product, show them that the proof of concept of like, we've been doing this at this other retailer. Y'all are basically in the same vein as that. Like, there's no reason why this won't move here at this deal. So that, I would say that's probably one of the hard parts too, is like finding the exact person. And you can tell there's kind of the communication within some of these places isn't very clear, because sometimes they don't even actually know who the right person to talk to, or they'll send you like 3 different people. Some of them are there just doing their job, and so they might not really even care about bringing on a new product, right? They might be the person that's just kind of stalking and doing things, and they have that area, but they don't really care like if your product makes it on their shelves or not. So that's always a fun game to navigate, is like, who do I have to get in touch with and bug to get some product in their hand, talk to them, tell them the story, show them like, everything of why your product belongs in their store and on their shelves.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I have the understanding that 2024 is the first year where you feel like you've really got everything in place to scale up a lot aggressively. I think you said to my team 800%. So first, is that correct? And second, in case it is, what changed this year?
Yeah, so my first so like I said, I retired in 2022. So like all of 23 was like redoing a lot of the company, getting it in at least shape to be presentable enough to go into retail. I think our first round of labels we had were not quality. We didn't, that's just part of being a young business, is, the print quality of the labels weren't good. They weren't eye-catching enough to like be on a shelf. It didn't grab anyone's attention. Still figuring things out. So just kind of went in, reevaluated, reassessed, and was like, okay, we have to redo this. We needed the website, we need new photography, like kind of all these little things we had to do. So in my first year of being retired, it was redoing almost everything in the company and getting a crash course in all this entire, e-commerce, D2C, retail, all these different areas. And so you kind of have these like priority items you have to go to first, where it's like, hey, like we're not even ready for email marketing yet. Like we don't even have anything that's worth email marketing right now. Like we can still do some brand awareness type things, but and then just slowly like having to find vendors in all these different areas, realizing that they couldn't execute at the level we wanted to, having to fire them, move on. That's kind of what takes a long time too, is just continuing to cycle through until you find the right person to run all these different areas for for the business. And I think finally now is where we kind of have all these different areas where someone asks like, hey, do you have this, where I can finally say, yes, we have someone doing that. Are they the best in the biz at it? Like maybe not, but that's where, as a company, as you continue to grow and you continue to evaluate, just like in the NFL, evaluating your team, like, hey, is there someone that needs to, like, that can do better for the same price? Like, then that's that's on them. If they can't execute at that level, then we're going to have to replace you and move on. And so, I think my first year when we got done, like, I was just like, hey, like this company, like we need to do all these different things. Like we need to, if we're either going to go here or like this is nothing at all. And so I've been able to, grow it pretty fast in my mind for having to do all those things and not even having them in place really. And so 2024, has already been off to a good start, continuing to grow and just, continuing to kind of climb. And we're going in the right direction. I think some people get deterred if, they're not hitting this like certain number a month. And it's like, hey, like you might not hit that like right away. It's just like anything. Like it's just like, your time in the mile or your bench press or whatever it is. You're not going to happen overnight. And so I always just look at it as like, as long as we're heading in the right direction, that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me motivated, and that, getting the feedback from customers and different people in the community and at different events and different wherever we go, having the great feedback that we have. And so just looking for another strong year here in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear you understand the long-term game, as we were saying in the beginning, right? That's something great that I guess, of course, it's in you, but maybe thanks to being an athlete too, the discipline and understanding the long-term results. So that's great. Talking about feedback and customers, I understand that you have a 50% returning customer rate, sorry, more or less. So I can see that you're clearly doing something right in terms of customer retention, right? So what's your approach to keeping customers coming back? And do you think that there's anything special that's making that happen? Is it pricing? Is it the differentiation from other brands?
I
Is it
think the
something?
best way to have customer retention is to have a good product, and that works, and that I think that's what keeps people coming back. They're like, okay, this actually worked, so I'm going to buy it again. I think the other part of that is the price point is fair, and it's not, we probably could charge $69 a bottle if we wanted to for this kind of elite pharmaceutical grade clinically backed product. But that's just not who we are. It's not what we kind of set out to do. So I think that, and just, continuing to educate our customers through email marketing with, even letting them know even more science behind the products, to kind of even, just imprint on them, how these products work, and that you're spending your money's getting is well spent here. You're not just getting the placebo effect. I would say those are probably some of the main reasons why we have that as a return rate.
Use subscriptions?
Yeah.
And what would you say about them? Again, ups and downs, pros and cons of using subscriptions.
Ups and downs. I mean, I guess if you have someone cancel a subscription, you kind of like, obviously it's like another form of rejection of like, oh man, but that might not always be your fault. That could be the end consumer. Maybe they financial like, hey, like we need to cut back on spending, or like, who knows? It could be maybe their friend just released a brain supplement. They're like, hey, I'm going to support you now. Like there's so many reasons why someone could cancel a subscription. And so subscription model obviously is proven solid. It's one of the main objectives in the D2C world, is to get people on the subscription model, and to where they don't have to think about it. I think making the way we live now is making everything easy for people. Don't make it complicated. Like I don't want to have to do more. I don't want to fill out anything else. I don't want to have to click through more pages. Like I want to be able to just like click once, twice, and boom, it's getting shipped to me, and I don't have to think about it anymore. That's why autopay was invented for companies. So that's kind of one of the best ways to kind of have that retention.
Yeah, and do you guys, is it if you don't mind me asking, is it possible for you to be profitable in the first order, or since you have subscriptions and have this high percentage of retention, you bet on the second or third purchase to be profitable?
Yeah, it's about the second or third purchase for profitability. So um that's kind of obviously the goal is to get that get him in that range.
It's great. So I think that's all from my end. Do you have any anything else that I didn't ask you that you'd like to mention to the audience?
Um Yeah, I think another part of Braintree that we almost we're always so busy kind of talking about the science behind the products is like how Braintree is at the forefront of battling against degenerative brain disease. We donate a portion of our proceeds for every bottle sold to Alzheimer's research, and so work with the Alzheimer's research, work with Alzheimer's Association, and uh, potentially working with the Aoki Foundation, with Steve Aoki, the DJ. Has a big brain health guy, so might be going out to be a sponsor at their event in September to just kind of continue the mission. So another part of our, you know, I think it kind of works very well with our mantra of like making brain health affordable and available, is just trying to be here to help.
Amazing. I love that. Before we wrap up, is there any person, it could be a mentor, a former boss, someone you follow that has inspired you or, supported you throughout the years that you would like to give a shout out to?
You know, I would have to say that, you know, my high school football coaching staff was a huge part of why I'm sitting here today. They were kind of the first time in my life where I had, multiple hard ass dads around me that kind of instilled this work ethic and discipline and kind of this mindset at a very, very early age. I grew up in Texas. I played Texas high school football. So if you know anything about that, the culture is very extreme. And so at a very early age was, used to being coached very hard, being disciplined, um, and just being accountable and learning to take criticism and learning to take coaching at a very like intense level, being able to perform under the crowds, under the stress. And so they really set this foundation for me from a mindset level at a very early age, which kind of just snowballed into all the other areas of my life, which then helped me to get a scholarship for college, which then helped me to go to the NFL, which is now helping me in business. So it kind of all, I feel like it kind of all roots back to, my high school days and the coaching staff that I had there. It's just very old school, very military based, driven principles. So those guys.
Amazing. Well, for everyone watching this or listen to this episode, if you're not already there, make sure to go to the ddcinsider.com, find the episode, and there you'll find all the show notes, including everything that he mentioned here today. It was great to have you here, Andrew. Again, the first time I have an NFL player. So I really love the interview. I love what you're doing. It's very noble what you're building, that you care about the ingredients, you care about what you're giving to your audience, you care about giving back as well and learning every single day. So from the bottom of my heart, congrats for everything you're building. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone looking to connecting with you, where can they go to find you and of course BrainTree Nutrition?
You can find us at braintreenutrition.com is our website. And you can find us on socials at Take Braintree. And then for my personal stuff, I don't do a lot of Twitter and other stuff, but I do have Instagram. So you can just find me at Andrew.Sendejo. That's where you'll find kind of the blooper content, kind of the funny, more laid back stuff. Our other socials will kind of be more science based. So
Amazing. Of course, as he said, everything will be in the show notes, so feel free to go there to find everything he said. Andrew, again, it was a pleasure to have you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.